$25,000 hospital bill in America. The emergency. He thought it was a minor problem. A small problem. The kind of problem that would be solved within a few hours. Nothing serious. Nothing dangerous. Nothing expensive. At least that was what Ethan believed. Only a few hours earlier, he had been enjoying his vacation. Walking through downtown Chicago, taking photographs, exploring restaurants, experiencing America for the first time. Everything felt exciting. Everything felt normal. And honestly, he was having the trip of a lifetime. For years, he had dreamed about visiting the United States. The famous cities, the landmarks, the culture, the atmosphere. Everything seemed larger than life. And now he was finally here, living the dream, creating memories, enjoying every moment. Most travelers imagine problems happen to other people, not themselves, especially during vacations, especially when everything appears perfect. That belief feels comforting, until reality interrupts. And reality often arrives without warning. Ethan first noticed the pain while walking back toward his hotel. A strange discomfort, a tight sensation in his chest. Nothing severe, nothing dramatic, just unusual. At first he ignored it. Many travelers do. Long flights create fatigue. Jet lag creates discomfort. Travel creates stress. Everything seemed explainable. Everything seemed temporary. But then something shocking happened. The pain became worse, much worse. His breathing changed. The discomfort intensified. The situation suddenly felt serious, very serious. People nearby noticed immediately. Concern appeared on their faces. Questions followed. One person asked if he needed help. Another suggested medical attention. Ethan hesitated. Not because of the pain, because of money. Most international travelers have heard stories. Stories about American healthcare. Stories about hospital bills. Stories about medical debt. Stories so extreme they sound unbelievable. Stories many people dismiss, until they become personal. Ethan remembered those stories, and honestly, he hoped they were exaggerated. He hoped they were myths. He hoped they were internet rumors. Unfortunately, he would soon discover the truth. The pain continued increasing. Walking became difficult. Breathing became uncomfortable. The situation could no longer be ignored. Emergency services were called. Within minutes, an ambulance arrived. The paramedics acted quickly, professionally, efficiently. Questions were asked. Vital signs were checked. Equipment appeared. The seriousness became obvious. Ethan entered the ambulance, and honestly, that was the moment everything changed. Most travelers never think about ambulance costs. They think about hospitals, doctors, medication, treatment, not transportation, not emergency response, not ambulance fees. That mistake is common, very common, because ambulance costs rarely appear in travel advertisements. Yet those costs can become significant, especially in the United States. The ambulance arrived at the hospital. The emergency room moved quickly. Staff members appeared immediately. Questions continued. Tests began. Machines monitored everything. Doctors reviewed symptoms. Nurses collected information. The process felt efficient, professional, organized, exactly what Ethan needed, exactly what he expected. Then came the first surprise. The emergency room never discussed prices. Not immediately. Not during treatment. Not during evaluation. The focus remained medical. The focus remained health. Which made sense, because emergencies do not wait for financial discussions. Most travelers never realize this. Medical treatment often happens first. Billing happens later, much later. And that delay creates shock, a very expensive shock. Ethan remained in the hospital for observation. Additional tests followed. Blood work, imaging, monitoring, consultations. Everything seemed necessary. Everything seemed reasonable. Everything seemed professional. Yet every service added cost. Every procedure added cost. Every hour added cost. The bill was growing, rapidly, although Ethan did not know it yet. The doctors eventually delivered reassuring news. The situation was not life-threatening. Treatment had worked. Recovery looked positive. The danger had passed. Relief flooded through him. Genuine relief. Because health matters more than money, at least in that moment. But the real problem started later, several days later, after discharge, after recovery began, after life started feeling normal again. That was when the bill arrived. The first statement appeared electronically. Ethan opened it casually, expecting something manageable. Perhaps several $100s, maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000. Expensive, but survivable. Then he saw the number, and honestly, he thought it was a mistake. The total exceeded $25,000. $25,000. For a medical emergency that lasted only a short period. $25,000. For treatment he never expected to need. $25,000. For a vacation that was supposed to create memories, not debt. Not financial panic, not nightmares. The shock felt overwhelming. Most travelers hear stories about American healthcare costs, but hearing stories and seeing an actual bill are completely different experiences. One feels theoretical, the other feels personal, very personal. Ethan stared at the screen, again, and again, and again. The number never changed. The bill remained real, the amount remained real, the problem remained real. Most travelers never realize how quickly medical costs accumulate. Emergency room fees, physician charges, specialist consultations, diagnostic testing, facility fees, monitoring fees, medication charges. Everything creates expenses. Everything contributes. Everything increases the total. And honestly, the total terrified him. Then another question appeared, a question that would determine everything. Did his travel insurance actually cover the emergency? Because if the answer was no, the nightmare was only beginning. The insurance nightmare. Ethan could not stop staring at the bill. The number seemed unreal. $25,000. More than the cost of some cars. More than many people earn in months. More than he had ever expected to spend during a vacation. The screen remained unchanged. The amount remained unchanged. The fear became very real. Most travelers think the hospital bill is the end of the story. Unfortunately, it is often only the beginning. Because after the bill comes another challenge, insurance. And that challenge can become just as stressful. Sometimes even worse. Ethan immediately searched for his travel insurance documents. The policy had been purchased before departure. He remembered feeling responsible, prepared, protected. At the time, the purchase felt like a smart decision. Now, it felt like his only hope. His entire financial future seemed connected to that policy. Most travelers buy insurance quickly. Many never read the details. Many never review exclusions. Many never understand limitations. They simply assume they are covered, assume protection exists, assume everything will be fine. That assumption can become dangerous, very dangerous. Ethan located the policy documents. Coverage appeared active. The dates matched. The destination matched. Everything seemed positive. For a brief moment, hope returned. Then he began reading the fine print. And honestly, that was when new concerns appeared. The policy contained conditions, requirements, limitations, exclusions. Words most travelers never read carefully. Words that suddenly become extremely important during emergencies. The real problem started later. Ethan contacted the insurance company. The claim process began. Documents were requested. Many documents. Hospital records, medical reports, invoices, receipts, treatment summaries, emergency documentation. Everything needed verification. Everything needed review. Most travelers never realize how much paperwork follows a medical emergency. The treatment may last hours. The claim process can last weeks, sometimes months. The stress continues long after the hospital visit ends. Ethan submitted everything, every document, every receipt, every invoice. Then he waited, and waited, and waited. The waiting felt familiar, just like visa applications, just like immigration reviews. Uncertainty creates anxiety, especially when large amounts of money are involved. Every email created hope. Every notification created anticipation. Every day felt longer, much longer. Then the insurance company responded. The message was professional, polite, detailed, and deeply concerning. Additional information was required, more verification, more documents, more explanations. The process continued. Weeks passed. Meanwhile, the hospital continued sending billing notices. Reminders arrived regularly. Statements appeared repeatedly. The amount remained enormous. The pressure increased. Most travelers never imagine receiving collection notices while trying to enjoy memories from a vacation. Yet, medical emergencies can create exactly that situation. Financial stress follows people home, across borders, across continents, across time zones. Ethan learned something surprising. Hospital bills often contain multiple charges. Not one bill, multiple bills. Different departments, different providers, different specialists, different invoices. The complexity felt overwhelming. One statement listed emergency room charges. Another listed physician services. Another listed laboratory work. Another listed imaging costs. Everything arrived separately. Everything required attention. Everything required understanding. Most travelers assume one hospital visit equals one invoice. Reality can be much more complicated, and honestly, that complexity shocked him. Then came another surprise. The ambulance invoice arrived. A separate bill, a separate amount, a separate financial burden. The emergency transportation alone cost thousands of dollars. Thousands. For one ride, one emergency ride. Most travelers never consider this possibility. They focus on hospital treatment. They forget transportation costs. Yet ambulance fees can be significant, especially in the United States. That reality surprised Ethan more than almost anything else, because the ambulance had felt routine, necessary, standard. Yet the financial impact felt extraordinary. The total bill continued growing. Every statement revealed new numbers. Every document revealed new costs. The financial pressure intensified. Most travelers hear about American healthcare costs. Few truly understand them until they see itemized charges. Line after line, fee after fee, charge after charge. The numbers accumulate quickly, very quickly. Ethan began researching. Stories appeared everywhere. Tourists, students, business travelers, international visitors. Many had experienced similar situations. Different illnesses, different accidents, different hospitals, same shock, massive bills, unexpected costs, financial panic. The stories felt terrifying, yet educational, because they revealed something important. Preparation matters, especially financial preparation, especially insurance preparation, especially before traveling internationally. Then something unexpected happened. The insurance company finally delivered a preliminary decision. Part of the claim appeared eligible. Part of the claim required additional review. Part of the claim raised questions. The uncertainty returned immediately. Most travelers believe claims are either approved or denied. Reality often exists somewhere in between. Partial approvals, partial reimbursements, additional reviews, documentation requests, complex outcomes, complex processes, complex stress. Ethan now understood that reality, better than ever. The policy covered emergency treatment. That was good news, very good news. But certain charges required clarification, specific charges, specific circumstances, specific billing categories. The review continued. The waiting continued. The anxiety continued. Most travelers never realize how important policy details become after emergencies. Coverage limits matter. Exclusions matter. Documentation requirements matter. Everything matters. The difference between understanding a policy and assuming coverage can become enormous, financially enormous, emotionally enormous. Ethan reflected on his preparation. He had purchased insurance. That was smart. But he had never studied the policy carefully. That was a mistake. Not a catastrophic mistake, but still a mistake. Many travelers make the same mistake because insurance feels boring, complicated, technical, easy to ignore. Until something goes wrong, then every detail becomes important, very important. Weeks later, another update arrived. The insurance review was progressing. Some payments would be covered, some expenses would be reimbursed. Relief appeared, finally. But the story was not over, because one final surprise remained. A surprise hidden inside the policy itself. A surprise most travelers never notice until it is too late. And honestly, that discovery would become the most valuable lesson of the entire experience. Because the biggest danger was not the hospital bill. It was something hidden inside the insurance policy from the very beginning. The hidden trap. Ethan finally received another email. Weeks had passed. The stress had become exhausting. The waiting had become frustrating. Every day felt uncertain. Every notification created anxiety. And honestly, he just wanted an answer, a final answer. The insurance company had reviewed the claim, the hospital records, the invoices, the treatment reports, everything. Now, the decision was ready. Ethan opened the email immediately. His hands were shaking, not because of the medical emergency, because of the money. $25,000 changes the way people think. The amount felt enormous. The consequences felt real. The email began positively. Several major charges had been approved: emergency room treatment, diagnostic testing, medical evaluations, monitoring costs, important expenses, expensive expenses. Relief arrived immediately. Real relief. For the first time in weeks, Ethan felt hopeful. Then he continued reading. And honestly, that was when another shock arrived. Not every charge qualified for reimbursement. Several expenses fell into categories with limitations. Some costs exceeded policy limits. Some expenses required additional documentation. Some services were partially covered. Others were not. The nightmare was not over. Most travelers assume insurance means complete protection, complete reimbursement, complete financial safety. Reality can be very different. Insurance often protects travelers, but protection does not always mean total coverage. That distinction matters a lot. The real problem started later. Ethan reviewed the policy again, this time much more carefully, line by line, paragraph by paragraph. And that was when he discovered something important, something hidden in plain sight: coverage limits. Most travelers focus on whether insurance exists. Few focus on how coverage actually works. Coverage limits determine maximum protection. Coverage limits determine financial exposure. Coverage limits determine risk. And honestly, many travelers never notice those numbers until they need them. Ethan realized his policy contained specific reimbursement conditions, specific limits, specific requirements. The insurance company was not refusing the claim. The company was applying policy terms, terms he had accepted, terms he had never fully studied. That realization felt painful because it was preventable, very preventable. Most travelers compare prices when buying insurance: cheap versus expensive, affordable versus premium. Many never compare coverage quality. Many never compare exclusions. Many never compare limits. That mistake can become costly, very costly. Imagine two travelers. Both visit America. Both experience the same emergency. Both receive similar treatment. One purchased comprehensive coverage. The other purchased the cheapest policy available. The outcome may be dramatically different. One traveler receives strong protection. The other faces major financial exposure. The emergency is identical. The financial result is completely different. That comparison reveals something important. Insurance is not simply a purchase. It is a risk management decision. And risk management decisions matter most during emergencies. Ethan eventually learned exactly how much he would still owe. Several $1,000s remained his responsibility, not $25,000, but still significant, still painful, still unexpected. The final amount would affect savings, travel plans, future budgets, everything. The emergency had ended. The financial consequences continued. Most travelers never think about medical debt before traveling. They think about flights, hotels, tourist attractions, restaurants, experiences, not emergency bills, not ambulance invoices, not insurance exclusions. That is why awareness matters. Because emergencies rarely provide advance warning. Nobody plans medical emergencies. Nobody schedules accidents. Nobody expects hospital visits. Yet they happen every day, across the world, to ordinary travelers, to experienced travelers, to everyone. The lesson became clear. Preparation matters before departure, not afterward. Before. Travel insurance should never be purchased blindly. Policies should be reviewed. Coverage should be understood. Exclusions should be examined. Limits should be verified. Everything should be understood before boarding a plane, not after receiving a hospital bill. Most travelers never realize how many exclusions exist inside policies: pre-existing condition exclusions, adventure activity exclusions, alcohol-related incident exclusions, documentation requirements, claim deadlines, coverage restrictions. Different policies contain different rules. That is why reading matters, because assumptions create risk. Knowledge reduces risk. Ethan often reflected on what happened. The emergency itself was frightening. The hospital visit was stressful. The financial consequences were painful. But the biggest lesson involved preparation. Better preparation could have reduced uncertainty. Better preparation could have reduced stress. Better preparation could have improved confidence. That lesson became invaluable. Today, Ethan travels differently, more carefully, more thoughtfully, more strategically. Insurance is no longer an afterthought. It is a priority. Because experience changed everything. Most travelers hope nothing goes wrong. That hope is understandable. But smart travelers prepare anyway. Because preparation creates options. Preparation creates protection. Preparation creates peace of mind. And honestly, peace of mind becomes extremely valuable when emergencies happen far from home. Before your next trip, ask yourself one important question. If a medical emergency happened tomorrow, would your insurance actually protect you? Not probably, not maybe, actually. Because that answer matters, more than many travelers realize. Travel should create memories, not debt, not panic, not financial nightmares. And preparation remains one of the strongest tools available to every traveler. Travel Insurance Safety Checklist. Verify medical coverage limits. Understand emergency room coverage. Understand ambulance coverage. Review exclusions carefully. Verify destination eligibility. Save policy documents offline. Save emergency contact numbers. Understand claim procedures. Keep receipts and medical records. Purchase coverage based on risk, not price alone. Because preparation before departure is always easier than solving problems afterward. Disclaimer: this video is for educational and travel awareness purposes only. Insurance policies, coverage limits, claim procedures, medical costs, reimbursement rules, and travel requirements vary by provider, country, and individual circumstances. Travelers should always review official policy documents and consult their insurance provider before traveling. CTA. Subscribe to Global Policy Guide for travel safety, visa updates, insurance awareness, immigration guidance, hospital bill realities, airport travel risks, and real travel warning stories from around the world.